In this DIY, I'm going to show you how to make a bar stool just like this. It's strong, sturdy, and it will last a lifetime. This project may look a little complicated, but don't worry, I've broken it all down into simple steps to ensure that you have success and fun whilst making this DIY. In this DIY, I'm using one type of timber, 32 by 69 planed all round. I'm using a total of 6 lengths of 1.8 meter. Take the cutting list, which I've set up all for you to match this chair, to builders, and they will cut it all for you to those sizes. Once you get all your pieces back, be sure to separate them all out and mark them according to the cutting list. It's going to make your life much easier when assembling the DIY. The tools I'm going to be using, well, firstly, it's my Kreg pocket hole tool. As you know, I love pocket holes, I love the Kreg equipment, but more importantly, this is for a bar stool. It's going to take a lot of abuse over the years, so I want a strong and sturdy joint, which is simple and easy for me to do as well. I'm going to be using some wood glue between the mating surfaces. I'm using the larger 51mm coarse threaded Kreg screw. We'll be using some wood filler and a scraper. I've got some pocket plugs which we're going to plug the pocket holes at the end of the project. We've got some 60mm wood screws. I've got a speed pilot which will help drill my clearance holes in the top of the seat and countersink the head at the same time. I'm making use of some Kreg clamps, tape measure and pencil, a sander, and a cordless drill. And I'm using my impact driver. And this is a fantastic tool which is designed for driving screws into soft materials or hard materials. It's got more than enough torque behind it, but at the same time you have a lot of control over that power. Looking at the chair, you can see that the pieces that need pocket holes are the front slats, which are joining onto the legs, as well as the side braces as well, which are also joining onto the legs. Each one of those pieces, which is the 280s and the 330s, will need 2 pocket holes on either side. Now let's move all the other stuff out the way and drill those pocket holes. That's 4 pieces of 330 for the side braces and 6 pieces of the 280 for the front and back section. My pocket holes are complete. I'm now going to start assembling the front section. That's with the 725 legs, and then the back section, which is with the 1065 legs. I'm going to place my 725 legs on the side of my table, and I'm going to use the 280 struts to give the correct spacing. One at the top and one at the bottom, offset 150mm from the bottom of the leg. Don't forget, it's a good idea to put wood glue in between your mating surfaces. That's my first piece in. Move over to the other side. First side done, turn it around and do the exact same thing on the other side of the leg. That's the front section complete of the stool. We're now going to make the back section. As you can see, the back section is similar to the front, but obviously with the higher legs to accommodate the backrest as well as the cross braces. But it's important that you do get the seat brace in the same position. If you use a tape measure, you're more than likely going to end up making a mistake. So I'd rather use this as a template to ensure that I get exactly the same position all the way around for my seat brace. I've got 4 pieces of timber, one at the top, one at the bottom, 150 offset to match up with the previous one. The second piece is going to be in the middle to match up with the front section, and then we've got another floating piece to add in for the backrest. So 150 from the bottom, one to match up on the top, one floating for the backrest, and this one is going to line up with our front section. So let's start and get each piece in exactly the same procedure as we did for the front section. The last bit to go in is that last piece on the back of the brace. Now I always try and avoid using a tape measure because I always end up making a mistake, so I'm just using the thickness of 2 pieces of timber as my spacer to get the same gap all the way around. So I pop in my 2 pieces into position there, and then that I will butt up my cross brace on the side there against those 2 pieces. Obviously I'll put in some wood glue, clamp it down and screw it into position. Remember, it's advisable to do all of the one side first before you add on the other section of the leg. Otherwise, you end up trying to battle to get these guys in between if you've already secured the two outer surfaces. That's the back section complete. Now we're going to join those two pieces together. Remember, we're going to use the side braces, which we've already drilled our pocket holes. One on the top on either side and one at the bottom on either side, 150 from the bottom. We're going to be using the Craig pocket screws again to join those two together. So you'll see your line is the same line at the top of the strut, 725 from the bottom, and this is also 150 from the bottom of the legs. Now I'm starting off with the front section and putting my first cross brace, which is 150 from the bottom at the bottom side of the leg. I'm making use of the Craig right angle clamp, and what's really nice about this is this side here actually goes through the one side of the pocket hole and clamps that piece of timber down in the same position as it would be actually screwed. Pop in the pocket screw, drive that one in, undo the clamp, and you don't need to use that on the other side because the screw is already clamped it tight. Exactly the same procedure for the next piece at the end here. That's the one side done. Flip it over, and we're going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. Looking good, it's coming together. Let's flip that over and apply some wood glue. Just going to line it up. Everything's looking good. And putting in a little brace in the bottom here just to help as a support for the seats to screw down into. So we will use normal 60mm screws for that, and I'm going to use my speed pilot, which will make a clearance hole and countersink the hole at the same time. There you go, my structure is complete. All we need to do now is put on our seat slats. Two shorter ones are going on the outer edge. Once you've got the outer ones into position, you can just evenly space the three in the middle to ensure they have even equal gaps all the way across the seat. That's the structure complete. The next thing to do now is obviously fill these screw holes. I'm going to use wood filler and a scraper to fill that in. Now you'll see I'm using pine as my structure, so I'm using a pine wood filler to give me the best match. You can also use the wood filler for any joints which are misaligned, and you can disguise that after sanding it down. I'm also going to fill these Craig pocket holes, but I'm not going to use wood filler. I'm going to use pocket plugs. Now I made these using my plug cutter. Check out the clip on how that tool works. What's really nice about that tool is you get to make plugs out of the same material that you are using. That way you get a much better color and grain match to the timber that you are using. Alternatively, you can use wood filler. Now that I've plugged all my holes and my wood filler and the glue is dry, it's now time to sand it down. I'm using a 120 grit. I want to remove any resin buildup on the timber, so if I want to apply a stain and my sealer, it will actually adhere better to the timber. Sand down wherever you put the wood filler. Look out for any uneven edges, and you can sand and fix those down now too. The chair is sanded all down, and it's now time to seal it. Now you can choose to stain it up first if you like. I'm going to keep these ones with the pine natural look, and I'm using an exterior wood sealer. This particular one still gives you that slight yellow look. It actually enhances the pine and really brings out the contrast of the grain and the texture and the structure of the timber. So I really like this, and it's ideal for exterior use as well. You need to apply at least 2 to 3 coats. That's the DIY complete. It's now time to get these guys into place. From this DIY guide to you DIYers out there, the most important thing is be amazing, love the DIY, and enjoy the therapy. If you enjoyed this clip, like it, share it, leave us a comment. You can also subscribe to the Builders Fan YouTube channel, where there's a range of product reviews and DIYs just like this for you to replicate or be inspired.